I found them in my bed. My husband. My sister. And I didn't scream. That's what everyone expects, isn't it? The dramatic confrontation, the tears, the breaking of dishes, the screaming match that ends with someone storming out and slamming doors. But here's what nobody tells you about betrayal: sometimes the quietest response is the deadliest one. Sometimes staying silent is the smartest thing you'll ever do. And sometimes, the person who doesn't fight is the one who wins everything. My name is Olivia, and this is the story of how I discovered my husband Marcus and my younger sister Rebecca were having an affair, and how my silence became the weapon that destroyed them both. Let me take you back to where it all began. 3 months ago, I had what everyone would call the perfect life. Successful marketing career, beautiful 2-story house in the suburbs, a husband who was respected in his finance firm, and a sister I considered my best friend. I was 32, married for 5 years, and honestly believed I'd figured out the formula for happiness. Marcus was charming, driven, the kind of man who remembered anniversaries and brought home flowers for no reason. Rebecca, my 28-year-old sister, was the fun one, the spontaneous one, the one I'd practically raised after our mother passed away when I was 16. I'd helped her through college, introduced her to my friend circle, even got her a job at Marcus's company in their PR department. We did sister brunches every Sunday. She called me her hero. You see where this is going, don't you? But knowing the ending doesn't prepare you for the moment your entire world splits in half. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were my late days at the office. Strategy meetings that usually ran until 7 p.m. Except that Tuesday, our client canceled last minute. I texted Marcus that I'd be home early, but he didn't respond. Nothing unusual, he was always in back-to-back meetings. I stopped at our favorite Italian place, picked up dinner, thinking I'd surprise him with his favorite chicken parmesan. I was actually smiling as I pulled into our driveway at 4:30 in the afternoon. Rebecca's car was parked on the street. The silver Honda Civic I'd helped her buy last year. She'd been coming around a lot lately, saying she needed my advice on things, wanted to spend more time together. I thought it was sweet. I thought my little sister finally appreciated everything I'd done for her. I walked into my house with takeout in one hand and my phone in the other. The living room was empty. No voices, no TV playing, just that particular quality of silence that feels wrong, like the air right before a storm. I set the food on the kitchen counter, and that's when I heard it, a creak from upstairs. Our bedroom. The floorboard next to the closet that always groaned when you stepped on it. Marcus knew to avoid it. Rebecca didn't. My heart started pounding, but my mind went eerily calm. You know that moment in movies where everything slows down? That's real. I walked to the stairs, and with each step, I saw more evidence I'd been too blind to notice before. Rebecca's jacket on the banister, the one I'd complimented last week. Marcus's watch on the hallway table, he never took it off during the day. And then, the sounds. Low voices, a laugh I knew better than my own. My sister's laugh. I stood outside my bedroom door. It was cracked open maybe 2 inches. Enough to see the edge of my bed, the decorative pillows I'd arranged that morning scattered on the floor. Enough to see my husband's hand, the wedding ring I'd placed on his finger 5 years ago, touching skin that wasn't mine. Enough to see my sister, wearing one of my robes, the silk one Marcus gave me for Christmas. The betrayal hit me like a physical force. My lungs forgot how to work. My vision tunneled. Every cell in my body screamed at me to kick that door open, to destroy them with my rage, to make them feel a fraction of what I was feeling. My hand was on the doorknob. I was seconds away from burning my entire life down in one explosive moment. But then I heard them talking. When are you going to tell her? Rebecca's voice, soft, intimate in a way that told me this wasn't the first time. Wasn't even the 10th time. Soon, baby. I promise. I just need to handle the finances first. Make sure everything's arranged properly. Marcus, my husband, discussing leaving me like I was a business transaction to be managed. You've been saying soon for 3 months, Marcus. 3 months. They'd been doing this for 3 months. All those times Marcus said he was working late. All those times Rebecca needed to talk to me about her problems. Every family dinner where they sat across from each other, making small talk while I passed the potatoes, completely oblivious. 3 months of lies and smiles, and pretending. Something crystallized in me in that moment. Something cold and clear and absolutely certain. If I burst through that door right now, I'd be the hysterical wife. They'd deny it, gaslight me. Tell me I was seeing things wrong. Marcus's family. His lawyer friends. They'd spin it. Even if they admitted it, I'd be the emotional one, the one who couldn't handle it with grace. I'd give them the power to control the narrative, to paint me as the problem. So I did something they never expected. I did the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I took my hand off that doorknob. I walked back down those stairs, picked up the takeout I'd bought, got back in my car, and drove away. My hands shook so badly I had to pull over 3 blocks from my house. I sat in a parking lot outside a CVS pharmacy and screamed into my steering wheel until my throat was raw. I cried until I couldn't breathe. And then, when the storm passed and I could think clearly again, I did something that would change everything. I checked into a hotel. Not for the night, I'd have to go home eventually. Keep up appearances, but for 2 hours to think, to plan, to transform my pain into strategy. I opened my laptop and started Googling divorce lawyers. I opened my banking app and checked our accounts, our assets, started taking screenshots of everything. I went through my phone and backed up every text message, every email, every photo. And then I made a decision that would define everything that came next. I would go home. I would act like nothing happened. I would not scream. I would not cry. I would not give them the satisfaction of knowing I knew. Instead, I would watch. I would document. I would prepare. And when the time was right, when I had everything protected and arranged, I would let their own guilt and paranoia destroy them from the inside out. But here's what I need you to understand: this wasn't about revenge. Not really. This was about survival. This was about making sure that when my marriage ended, I wouldn't be the broken one begging for scraps. I'd be the one who walked away with my dignity, my assets, and my peace of mind intact. So, before we go any further into this story, before I tell you about the 3 months of hell I endured watching them lie to my face every single day, I need to ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. If you found out right now that the 2 people closest to you, the 2 people you trusted most in this world, had been betraying you for months, what would you do? Would you explode in that moment and let your emotions control you? Or would you have the strength to stay quiet, to play the long game, knowing that patience might destroy you but instant reaction would definitely destroy your future? Because that choice, that single decision I made standing outside my bedroom door, set everything else in motion. And I'm still not sure if I made the right one. But I can tell you this: by the time it was over, I was the only one left standing. So what would you do? I walked back into my house 3 hours later with that same Italian takeout, now cold, and did something that would have broken most people. I smiled at my husband and asked him if he was hungry. Marcus was in the living room, laptop open, pretending to work. Rebecca's car was gone, of course it was. He looked up when I came in, and for just a fraction of a second, I saw panic flash across his face before he buried it under a smile. "Hey babe, thought you had meetings until 7? His voice was so casual, so normal, like he hadn't been tangled up with my sister in our bed just 3 hours earlier, like he wasn't frantically wondering if I'd seen something, heard something, knew something. "Client canceled last minute," I said, holding up the takeout bag like a peace offering to my own ignorance. "Brought your favorite, chicken parmesan." I kept my voice light and cheerful, even though every word felt like I was gargling razor blades. This was test number 1. Could I look into the eyes of the man I'd loved for 7 years and lie as effortlessly as he'd been lying to me for 3 months? He hesitated, just for a heartbeat. His eyes flicked to his phone on the coffee table. "Yeah, that's great. Just let me finish this email real quick." I could practically see his thoughts racing. Was she texting Rebecca right now? Warning her that I came home early? Making sure their stories aligned? But here's what I learned about liars in that moment. They desperately want to believe they've gotten away with it. It's so much easier than facing consequences. So when I acted completely normal, when I set the table and poured wine and asked about his day like nothing had changed, he let himself believe I was still the oblivious wife. He wanted that to be true so badly that he convinced himself it was. That night, I lay in our bed, the same bed where he'd touched her, and I didn't sleep. Not even for a minute. I stared at the ceiling fan going round and round, and did something that would become my nightly ritual for the next 93 days. I planned every single detail of my exit, every asset, every document, every move I'd need to make, because this wasn't about catching them anymore. This was about making absolutely certain that when everything finally exploded, I'd be the only one left standing with anything worth keeping. The next morning, During my lunch break, I did something that felt completely insane. I drove to a law office downtown and sat across from Patricia Chen, one of the most ruthless divorce attorneys in the state. She was 50-something, with silver hair and eyes that could strip paint off walls. Her reputation: she didn't just win divorces, she obliterated cheating spouses. I laid it all out for her. The affair, the timeline, our financial situation, the fact that my sister worked at Marcus's company, which meant this wasn't just infidelity, it was a workplace affair that could have professional consequences. Patricia leaned back in her leather chair and studied me with an intensity that made me feel like I was being X-rayed. "Most people who walk through that door are crying," she said flatly. "You're not." "I cried yesterday," I told her. "Today I'm planning." She smiled then. It wasn't warm or comforting. It was the smile of a shark that just spotted blood in the water. "Smart woman, here's what you're going to do." And then she laid out a strategy so methodical, so thorough, it would have made a military general jealous. Document everything: dates, times, locations, text messages, photos. Secure my own income and career trajectory. Make copies of every financial record we had: bank statements, property deeds, investment accounts, tax returns. Open a separate account in my name only and start quietly transferring my personal earnings. Build an absolutely ironclad case. And most critically, don't let them know I knew until every piece was in position. "How long will this take?" I asked, my throat tight. Patricia didn't sugarcoat it. "If you want to do it right, 2 to 3 months minimum. Can you hold out that long? Can you go home every single day and pretend everything's fine while you're dying inside?" I thought about what that would mean. Coming home to lies every evening. Watching them exchange secret glances across family dinner tables. Sleeping next to a man who was probably counting down the days until he could leave me. Hugging my sister while knowing she'd stab me in the back. "I can hold out as long as it takes," I said. And I meant it. But let me tell you something, those 3 months were the most psychologically destructive period of my entire life. And the worst part? I had to inflict it on myself voluntarily. Week 1 nearly broke me. Rebecca called me 2 days later, bright and cheerful, asking if I wanted to do our Sunday brunch tradition. Every fiber of my being wanted to scream at her through the phone, to tell her I knew exactly what she was. Instead, I said yes. I sat across from her at our favorite cafe, watched her bite into her avocado toast, and listened to her complain about this guy she was seeing who wasn't fully committed yet. She was talking about my husband, to my face, asking me for advice on how to make him commit. Have you ever had to swallow rage so intense it felt like it would burn through your chest? Have you ever had to smile and nod while someone you love destroys you in real time without even knowing you can hear them doing it? I gave her advice. I actually gave her relationship advice about my own husband. Maybe he's just not ready, I told her, stirring my coffee with a steady hand that belonged to someone else. Maybe he's got things he needs to figure out first. She nodded, thanked me, called me the best sister in the world. I went home and vomited for 20 minutes straight. But I kept going. Because I'd started something, I couldn't stop now. I'd set myself on a path, and the only way out was through. By week 3, I'd created a system. Every day after work, I'd spend 30 minutes in my car before going inside, just breathing, preparing myself for the performance. I documented everything in a password-protected file on a laptop. Marcus didn't know I owned. I took screenshots of text messages I found on his phone while he was in the shower, messages between him and Rebecca planning their next meetup, calling each other baby and sweetheart, making jokes about how clueless I was. Each screenshot felt like a knife to the heart. But I saved them all methodically, building my case piece by piece. I transferred money carefully, never too much at once, nothing that would trigger alerts, just my own paychecks and bonuses going into an account he didn't have access to. I made copies of our property deed, our mortgage documents, his investment portfolio. I downloaded 7 years of tax returns. I was building an escape pod while the ship was still sailing, and neither of them noticed a thing. But here's where it gets really dark. Here's the part I'm almost ashamed to admit. Except I'm not. Because it worked exactly as planned. I started being nicer to Marcus. Warmer. More affectionate. I'd kiss him goodbye in the mornings with genuine seeming enthusiasm. I'd text him sweet messages during the day. I'd initiate date nights and actually laugh at his jokes. And it destroyed him. I could see it happening in real time. The guilt started eating him alive. He'd flinch when I touched him. He'd get this haunted look when I said I loved him. He started asking me weird questions. You'd tell me if something was wrong between us, right? And do you ever worry that we've changed? He was spiraling, and I was the one spinning him. Because that's the thing about cheaters, they're already drowning in guilt, and kindness from their victim is like pouring concrete into their lungs. Every nice thing I did made him feel worse. Every smile I gave him was a reminder of what he was destroying. I was weaponizing my own goodness, and it was devastatingly effective. Rebecca started unraveling too. By week 7, she was calling me more frequently, asking strange questions, overcompensating with gifts and excessive sister bonding time. She bought me expensive jewelry, probably with guilt money. She kept saying things like, "You know I'd never do anything to hurt you, right? And family is the most important thing." She needed my forgiveness for sins she thought I didn't know about yet. The cognitive dissonance was tearing her apart. And I let it. I watched both of them slowly suffocate under the weight of their own deception. And I did nothing to ease their pain. Is that cruel? Maybe. But you know what's cruel? Sleeping with your sister's husband for 3 months while she trusts you both completely. By week 9, they started fighting with each other. I know because I overheard a phone call. Marcus stepped outside to take it, not realizing our bedroom window was open. Rebecca was pushing him to tell me, to end it, to make a choice. She was tired of sneaking around, tired of being the secret. Marcus was stalling, making excuses, saying he needed more time to handle the finances properly. She accused him of wanting to have his cake and eat it too. He accused her of being impatient and not understanding how complicated divorce was. Their affair, built on excitement and forbidden passion, was becoming a source of stress and resentment. The guilt was poisoning them. The secrecy was suffocating them. And I was watching it all happen from behind my mask of pleasant ignorance. Do you understand what I'd done? I'd turned their weapon against them. Their secret wasn't protecting them anymore, it was destroying them. And I hadn't had to do anything except exist and be kind and let time do its work. But the hardest moment came in week 11. We had a family dinner, my father, Marcus's parents, Rebecca, Marcus, and me, all sitting around our dining room table like we were some kind of functional family unit. I'd made pot roast, everyone's favorite, and as I watched Marcus and Rebecca carefully avoid looking at each other, as I saw them both tense up every time I spoke, as I felt the suffocating weight of all those lies pressing down on that dinner table, I had a moment of doubt. Was I doing the right thing? Was this strategic silence actually protecting me? Or was it destroying me from the inside out? How much of myself would I have to sacrifice on the altar of getting revenge? But then Rebecca reached across the table, touched my hand, and said, "You're so strong, Olivia. I don't know how you hold everything together." And Marcus nodded, actually nodded, agreeing with her assessment of my strength while they both actively worked to tear my life apart. That's when I knew I'd made the right choice. That's when the doubt crystallized back into certainty. Because they didn't see me as strong, they saw me as stupid, as someone who could be betrayed and never notice, as someone who would just accept whatever scraps they decided to leave me with. By week 12, I had everything I needed, every document copied, every asset protected, every piece of evidence cataloged and backed up in 3 separate locations. My lawyer had drafted the divorce papers. I'd secured a promotion at work that came with a transfer option to our Seattle office, a fresh start waiting for me 3,000 miles away. I'd already put a deposit down on an apartment there. My escape route was complete. But here's what I didn't expect. They were planning to tell me themselves. I found out by accident, stumbling across an email Marcus forgot to close on our shared desktop. He and Rebecca had agreed on a date 2 weeks from now. They were going to sit me down together and explain that they'd fallen in love and wanted to be together. They drafted talking points about how it just happened, how they tried to fight it, how they hoped I'd understand eventually. They were going to control the narrative. They were going to make it seem noble somehow, like star-crossed lovers who couldn't fight fate. They were going to ask me to be happy for them. And that's when I knew exactly how this was going to end. If you're enjoying this story and want to see how I finally brought their whole world crashing down, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell, because Act 3 is where everything explodes. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens when they finally realize I knew all along. Drop a comment and tell me, would you have been able to hold out for 3 months? Or would you have broken? But before we get to that, I need you to understand something. I had one more move to make, one final piece to put in place before the confrontation. And it was the most dangerous gamble of all. So here's the question that kept me up at night. What's more powerful, exposing someone's betrayal or letting them expose themselves? I didn't have to wait long to find out. 3 days before Marcus and Rebecca's planned confession dinner, something beautiful happened. Something I didn't orchestrate but couldn't have planned better if I'd tried. Marcus's colleague, Jennifer. Someone I'd met at countless company events. Someone who actually liked me. Saw them together at a restaurant across town. She saw them holding hands. She saw Marcus kiss my sister like she was his whole world. And Jennifer, bless her heart, sent me a text with a photo attached. "Olivia, I'm so sorry, but I thought you should know." The photo was damning. Crystal clear. Marcus and Rebecca in a booth, his hand on her face, her eyes closed like she was savoring the moment. Perfect evidence. Undeniable proof. Everything I'd been collecting for 3 months in one convenient picture. I didn't even have to take myself. But here's where it gets interesting. I didn't respond to Jennifer right away. Instead, I waited exactly 6 hours. And then I replied, "Thank you for telling me. I need some time to process this." And then I did something that might seem crazy. I forwarded that photo to my father with a simple message. "Dad, can you come over tomorrow evening? There's something I need to discuss with the family. Can you make sure Rebecca comes too?" You see, I could have confronted them privately. Could have done this behind closed doors where they could spin the story, control the damage, beg for forgiveness in private. But I'd learned something over those 3 months of watching and waiting. Shame is most powerful when it has an audience. And betrayal hits hardest when it's exposed in front of the people whose opinions matter most. The next evening, I set the stage perfectly. I made dinner a full spread, like I was celebrating something. Marcus came home from work, confused but pleased. "What's all this for?" he asked. That guilty nervousness creeping into his voice again. "Just felt like having everyone together," I said with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Family's important, right?" Rebecca arrived with wine and that overcompensating enthusiasm she'd been wearing like armor for weeks. My father showed up right on time, already looking concerned because he knew me well enough to sense something was wrong. Marcus's parents couldn't make it, which was fine. I didn't need everyone. I just needed the right people. We sat down to eat, and the tension in that room was so thick you could have cut it with a knife. Marcus kept checking his phone. Rebecca couldn't stop fidgeting. My father kept looking between the three of us like he was trying to solve a puzzle. And me? I was calm. Eerily calm. The kind of calm that comes when you've already won, and you're just waiting for everyone else to realize it. Halfway through dinner, I set down my fork and looked at Marcus. "So, I heard you wanted to tell me something. You and Rebecca, something about how you've fallen in love and can't fight it anymore." The blood drained from both their faces simultaneously. It was almost comical, watching them realize that their carefully planned confession had been hijacked. My father's head snapped up. "What? Oh, did I get ahead of myself?" I continued, my voice steady and cold. "Were you planning to break it to me more gently? Maybe after dessert? I brought tiramisu. By the way, should we wait?" Rebecca started crying immediately. Guilty tears, the kind that come when you're caught, not when you're sorry. "Olivia, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" I cut her off. "Explain how my husband and my sister have been sleeping together for the past 4 months. Explain how you've been meeting up in our bed while I was at work. Explain how you've both been lying to my face every single day while planning your future together." Marcus tried to stand up. "Olivia, this isn't we were going to tell you. You were going to tell me on Friday," I said flatly. "I know. I read the email. The one where you drafted your little speech about star-crossed lovers and how you hoped I'd understand eventually. Really touching stuff, Marcus. You should have been a writer." My father looked like he'd been slapped. "Rebecca, is this true?" She couldn't even look at him. Just kept crying into her hands. Those performative sobs that were more about her shame than my pain. And watching her crumble, watching Marcus stand there speechless, I felt something I didn't expect. Not satisfaction. Not vindication. Just emptiness. Like I'd been carrying something so heavy for so long that now that I'd set it down, I didn't know what to do with my hands. "I've known for 3 months," I said quietly. "I came home early one day and heard everything. Saw everything. And I made a choice in that moment to stay quiet. To watch. To prepare." I pulled out a folder from under my chair, the divorce papers. All signed and ready. "So here's what's going to happen. Marcus, you're going to sign these papers. My lawyer has already ensured that our assets are divided fairly. which means you get exactly what you came into this marriage with and not a penny more. The house is in my name. I bought it with my inheritance, remember? You have 2 weeks to move out. He opened his mouth to protest, but I held up my hand. I have documented evidence of your affair. Text messages, photos, timestamps, everything. Your company has a morality clause in your contract, I checked. If you want to fight me on this, I'll make sure HR knows all about your workplace relationship with my sister. Wonder how your boss will feel about that. The fight went out of him. I watched it happen in real time, his shoulders sagging, his face crumbling. He'd lost and he knew it. Then I turned to Rebecca, and this was the part that hurt most. You were my best friend. I raised you after Mom died. I gave you everything, and you took the one thing I asked you not to. My voice cracked, just slightly, the only break in my armor all evening. I don't want your apology. I don't want your excuses. I just want you out of my life completely. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't show up at family events I'm attending. You made your choice. Now live with it. My father stood up, looking at Rebecca with disgust I'd never seen on his face before. You're not my daughter right now, he said quietly. I don't know who you are. And that's when Rebecca really broke. Not the performative tears from before, but real, ugly sobbing. The kind that comes when you realize you've destroyed something you can never get back. She reached for me. Livy, please. I stepped back. Don't call me that. Don't touch me. Just go. She left. Marcus followed. And suddenly it was just me and my father in that dining room with a table full of food no one had eaten and the wreckage of a family that would never be whole again. Dad hugged me then, and I finally let myself break. Not in front of them, never in front of them, but in front of the one person who'd always protected me. I let the tears come. I'm so sorry, sweetheart, he whispered. I'm so proud of you for being strong. I don't feel strong, I admitted. I feel broken. You're not broken, he said firmly. You're free. 2 weeks later, I watched movers take my things to a storage unit. Marcus had already moved out, staying with a friend, his tail between his legs. I'd accepted that transfer to Seattle. Started packing for a life I'd never imagined I'd have to build from scratch. Rebecca tried to call 47 times. I blocked her on the 48th. Marcus and Rebecca's relationship imploded within a month. Turns out, affairs built on betrayal don't make good foundations for real relationships. Who knew? Last I heard, they weren't even speaking to each other. The guilt and resentment poisoned whatever they thought they had. They destroyed everything for nothing. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my Seattle apartment, which has a view of Puget Sound and doesn't hold a single memory that hurts. I'm seeing a therapist every week, working through the trauma, learning that healing isn't linear. I got promoted again. Made new friends who know nothing about my old life unless I choose to tell them. And slowly, painfully, I'm building something authentic. Something that's completely mine. Do I regret staying silent for 3 months? Sometimes. It damaged me in ways I'm still unpacking. But I also know that if I'd exploded in that moment outside my bedroom door, I'd have lost everything. My home, my savings, my dignity, my peace of mind. By choosing patience over rage, I walked away with everything that mattered. So let me ask you one final time. If you discovered the ultimate betrayal, would you have the strength to stay silent long enough to protect yourself? Or would you burn everything down in the moment, consequences be damned? There's no right answer. But I can tell you that my silence was the most powerful weapon I ever wielded. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me your story. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? How did you handle it? Would you have done what I did, or would you have confronted them immediately? And if you know someone who needs to hear this story, someone who's going through their own betrayal right now, share this video with them. Let them know they're not alone. Let them know that sometimes the quietest response is the strongest one. Hit that subscribe button if you want more stories about people who refused to be victims, who took control of their narratives, who won by refusing to play the game everyone expected them to play. And remember, you're stronger than you think, smarter than they believe, and capable of surviving things that should have destroyed you. I'm proof of that. Thank you for listening to my story.